Hello, and welcome back. Today we're analyzing a news report on the lawsuit that California and 19 other states have filed against the president's new $100,000 H-1B visa fee.
Right. And the first thing that jumps out is that the piece really needs to maximize the emotional and financial impact of that fee hike right from the start.
So get straight to the shock value?
Exactly. I mean, the report lays out the facts, a jump from, maybe $2,000 to $5,000 up to $100,000. But that incredible, 20 to 50 times increase, it's treated like a secondary detail.
After all the legal stuff.
Yes. And that just diminishes the reader's immediate grasp of the huge economic burden this represents, especially for places like schools and hospitals, which Attorney General Bonta mentioned.
It's a purely factual framing, and it misses that financial gut punch entirely.
It really does. So the suggestion is to use the sheer size of that cost increase as the main hook. The legal battles then become the obvious consequence of this massive financial barrier.
So you could, for instance, open by calculating what this means for a small hospital?
Precisely. You could estimate the cost difference. A school district needs 5 specialized workers under the old system versus the $500,000 they'd need now. Frame it like that, and then you get into the Boston lawsuit. It just grounds the whole crisis.
Okay, and if the financial burden is that crippling, then the next logical step for a reader is to understand the legal fight.
The multi-front war, yeah.
And to do that, the material has to clearly lay out the different strategies in these legal challenges. The weakness I see here is that it mentions the state's lawsuit and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce lawsuit, but the second one feels like, an administrative note?
Like a footnote.
Exactly. And that completely undercuts the idea that this is a broad national resistance movement.
So we're talking about 2 very different legal ideas being used at the same time. One is about the president's power to basically create a tax, and the other's more about economic harm. Is that the core divide?
That is the divide, and it needs to be much sharper. The suggestion is to structure the summary to really contrast those legal theories. You have the state's challenge, which focuses on the Constitution, only Congress can generate revenue.
Right.
And then you contrast that with the private sector's challenge, which is probably more focused on immediate economic damage or maybe administrative overreach.
So you'd want to explicitly link the Boston lawsuit to that constitutional argument about who can impose fees versus the Chamber of Commerce, which is likely arguing about their survival of their industries.
It clarifies the entire battlefield for the reader.
That's a necessary structural fix. I think we also need to sharpen the analysis of the president's rationale and the counter-arguments.
Okay.
The material does present the White House defense that the fee is a lawful exercise of power. It'll discourage abuse. It notes the president is using his power to restrict entry he deems detrimental. But it never really analyzes how a $100,000 fee actually does that.
It doesn't connect the dots.
No, that gap just makes the White House's position feel abstract. It's hard to even evaluate.
But if the White House is just invoking this broad power to restrict entry, isn't focusing only on the processing cost a bit of a distraction? The fee amount itself needs to be held up against that stated goal of stopping abuse.
It does. And that's the suggestion. Strengthen the discussion by linking the president's power claim to that bigger debate in the article about H-1B visas. Do they replace American workers, or do they fill critical skill gaps?
Make it more direct.
Be direct. Analyze if the $100,000 fee is actually a targeted tool against abuse. Or, as Bonta argues, is it really just a punitive fee that unlawfully goes way beyond the cost of processing, which would make it, regulatory overreach? That puts the whole policy under a much sharper lens.
This has been really constructive. So the core takeaways to strengthen this piece are, first, elevate that dramatic financial impact right to the top to hook the reader immediately.
Absolutely.
Second, provide much greater clarity on the strategic differences between the multiple lawsuits.
The constitutional versus the economic.
And third, sharpen the analysis connecting the administration's stated reason to the fee amount itself. We invite you to refine this using these suggestions and submit the next version for more feedback.